In this video, we will be covering the basics of panels, which are the organizational unit you'll be using primarily to lay out, set up timing, and there are a lot of features and functionalities with panels. They're what you're going to be working with primarily for your storyboards, and this video will introduce you to the basics.
Finally, we have panel. Like I said, in yours, it's probably the first one here, but since I removed mine and re-added it, adds it to the back of the stack here of tabs. So this has all the information related to a particular panel. You could write your dialogue for this panel here. You can put action notes like camera is pushing through or shaking or whatever, any type of action notes. Slugging, which from what Google tells me, is related to the timing of your dialogue. And then notes, which just general notes. You can also do a voice annotation. So if I were to go ahead and hit record, and then it's going to tell me to, all right, so when you press record, it's going to have an annotation. And then you could say something like, it's really important that in this scene, the pigeon does not look afraid. And then you go ahead and stop. And then when I click OK, that annotation, you can see I have an annotation one of one, and I can delete it. So maybe I add another one and I say, oh, and by the way, the cat should be very afraid. Then I go ahead and click OK, and now I see I have two different annotations that are in the scene. And then I can just, hit play and then go through the different annotations that I have. So you can put notes regarding the contents of a particular panel. So now coming down here, if we go to, we see thumbnails, which is you should have by default, and then also timeline. So if you don't have timeline, you could add it by clicking that and adding that tab here. So thumbnails just kind of help you manage your panels. So now let's go ahead and talk about panels since we're here, and we'll start getting into what a panel is. So a panel is basically it's going to represent the shot, but it could have you could use multiple panels to represent a shot. So it's fundamentally like a key pose if you were blocking animation. So it's a key storytelling moment that you're trying to visually communicate. So the way that Toon Boom Storyboard Pro 7 uses panels is it helps you organize them at three levels. You can have what's called a panel, which is like the basic level, and then you can group that into a scene, and then you can group scenes into sequences. So the way to think about a sequence is like it's a chapter of a book. The way to think about a scene is that it's a particular story event. So a scene might be the burglar rummaging through the hotel room, and then he runs out into the hallway and dives out the window at the end of the hall. That might be a scene. Uh, but you could consider the sequences like chapters in the book. So like it's a group of scenes that happen. And here's what they look like when you start using them. So you can add panels through here. You can right click here, and you also have the same functionality, add panel scene sequence. So I'm just going to hit P a few times. So now I have a few panels, and you'll see that they're kind of boxed together. That's because they're all part of the same scene. And you could see that up here where it's saying, as I select a panel, it's saying I'm in scene 1, panel 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Now I could go ahead and add a new scene. So now it's telling me, hey, you're in scene 2. And I could hit P again to add a panel. I could hit backspace to delete a panel. So I'll add another panel. Um, and then we can also create a new sequence. So let's do that. New sequence. So this is a new sequence, and then it automatically made this one an an older sequence. So this would be sequence 2, this is going to be sequence 1. And I guess the only real way you can tell at this point is because of the grouping. So if I go ahead and add a new scene, and let's say I'm in this scene and I add some panels, I'm going to shift and middle mouse scroll to see, and then I'm going to add some panels over here. So this is the basic way that Storyboard Pro groups uh, panels. So a panel is kind of like the atomic element that you're going to be working with, and then you can group it into a scene, and then you can group that scene into a sequence. And here's what it looks like in a timeline. So here you can scrub through, and as you're scrubbing through, you can see, okay, here I'm in scene 1, panel 1, 2, 3. Now I'm back in scene 2, and now we're going to start a new sequence, so therefore it goes back to scene 1. So you can see you're going to have, as you get more and more involved, you're going to have a lot of panels. So you can scale here just like any other software you might be used to, like Premiere, After Effects, Blender, similar timeline things like Maya, etc. So you can scale the view to see your panels so you can see them all, or you can zoom in a little closer. Now the other thing you can do with the panels is going to be the timing. So the way you do that is when you hover your mouse over this section here, I can retime a particular panel. Say I only want that to happen this much, I won't, or over this much time. And if I click here, you see that the icon is changing, like a bracket with an arrow pointing towards which panel you're going to be affecting. So then here I can actually resize the next panel, etc. So this is how you would be working to resize or adjust the timing of your storyboard.